Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, are making their way to the big screen soon, and while we all try to forget the horrible 2015 film and the unappreciated but still pretty bad 2005 and 2007 films, I'm still mad this guy does not get his recognition because he's perfect for the role. Let's talk about the original medium that the Fantastic Four appeared in. Comic books. Over the years, I've developed a love for these fictional characters, more specifically Benjamin Grimm, aka The Thing. Honestly, I consider him to be one of the greatest fictional characters ever created. The way that Jack Kirby communicates the character through his drawings is just incredible and adds a layer of humanity and superheroics. Ever since Jack Kirby left the character with issue 144 of Fantastic Four, I've really struggled to find an artist that brings the same gravitas to the team, especially within the last 20 years. Most of the stories that star the Fantastic Four tend to focus so much on the cosmic, interdimensional adventure side of things that they really put on the sidelines all the character development and interpersonal dynamics that make them compelling in the first place. Also, it seems like most of the artists that have worked on the book over the years have really opted to go for a very stylized, cartoonish, kind of over-the-top design. So for some characters like Spider-Man or the Hulk, I think the more exaggerated, the more cartoonish you can make them, the better. For the Hulk, you want him to be gigantic and imposing and muscular and to move way faster than anything that size should be able to move. And for Spider-Man, you want him to be able to be fluid and shoot his webs and swing and have this action dynamic pose. To pull that off, you often need to abandon the things that make him look like a real person. His limbs are going to be stretched out, the poses are not going to be possible by any real-life acrobat, and the drawing needs to look lively, not like a still-life painting. But for the Fantastic Four, I've always felt that their strength lies in the fact that they seem like real people. This brings me into a broader point, which is the fact that over the last couple of years, I've really felt like there's a strong divide happening in the comics world. In some way or another, this divide has always been the case, and I think it was more prominent in times like the 90s, but especially now, we're really seeing it take place. This is the divide between over-stylized, cartoonish versions of characters that's designed to be exciting rather than realistic, and reverent portrayals of the characters that harken back to their original designs and the original things that inspired them. In general, you have artists that are working to create new things that might stick for modern readers, and then you have other artists over here that are obviously taking heavy inspiration from the work of people like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Joe Simon, Steve Ditko, and others. In the early 2000s, the wave of comics that was designed to appeal to more modern, younger readers attempted to modernize, revise, and update almost all of the characters and stories in the main Marvel universe. The Ultimate version of the Fantastic Four changed their origin story as well as their overall look and aesthetic. And while I do believe that the Ultimate Universe line benefited Marvel as a whole, I mean, we wouldn't have this movie without it, I think it became clear over a couple of years that people really did prefer the original versions of the characters. So when a book like Ultimate Fantastic Four depicts Benjamin Grimm as this over-stylized muscle man who just punches people and things and strips away a lot of the detail and nuance to his character design, I think you lose most of the humanity of the character. One of the reasons that Jack Kirby's art is held in such high regard is because it blends overly stylized cartoon violence with a very touching, human, grounded depiction of the character. So that's why I dislike a lot of the stylized work that's been done with the Fantastic Four over the last 20 or so years. Now let's talk about the really realistic stuff. On this side of the comic book world, there's really only one name that comes instantly to mind when you think of someone reverently portraying the original designs for a lot of classic characters, and that's Alex Ross. Whether you know him from his work on Kingdom Come, his timeless series of portraits that cover most of Marvel's main heroes and villains, or from any of his incredible independent work that he's done over the years, Alex Ross has become one of the most high-profile artists in the comic book industry. And with good reason. I'll talk more about his entire catalog in a future video, but for today, I really want to focus in on how he portrays the Fantastic Four, and more specifically, how he draws the Thing. The Alex Ross overall style comes from his usage of gouache paints, which is not something traditionally associated with comic book art. Additionally, he uses photo reference to accomplish hyper-realistic renderings. There are absolutely other people that deal with realism, but for Alex specifically, he has access to high-profile clients like Marvel and DC, so his work really stands out because it's some of the only work being done with these characters in this style. Trust me, if you've seen an Alex Ross comic book cover, you probably remember it. So with this extremely lifelike art, Alex Ross brings something to the Thing's character that really makes him human again. He draws Ben Grimm exactly as he would appear in the real world. The shadows over his eyes are very deep, his exterior is rough and coarse, and his blue eyes are piercing and bright in the middle of his face. So while he does look intimidating, he also comes across as exactly what he is, a man trapped inside a hideous outer shell that he can't escape. And that's the thing that makes the character compelling. In his recent writing debut, Fantastic Four Full Circle, Alex Ross brought the Thing to life yet again, but in a way that he hadn't done before. The pages of Full Circle are not painted with gouache paint like most of Alex Ross' work. These are pen and ink drawings, which is a style he never uses. But I really found it to elevate the Fantastic Four's characterizations here, because alongside the rest of the team, Ben Grimm's texture really comes through in these drawings. The harsh edges of his physique are really sharply outlined throughout all the pages. So while I'm taking all this time to praise Alex Ross' work, I don't want to claim that there's nobody that has worked on the Fantastic Four since Jack Kirby, that got it right. Honestly, I'm more concerned with the damage the last 20 years of comics has done to the character's history, rather than concerned about the pretty accurate depiction of them that happened from the 1960s up through the 1990s. Okay, not all of the 1990s, but you know what I mean. So like we talked about earlier, after the early 2000s redesigned and reintroduced a lot of characters to people, it became clear that most readers wanted to return to the original characters they actually knew. So going into the 2010s, a lot of creators focused on reintroducing us and reconnecting us to the original characters that we actually knew. Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars event in 2015 is pretty much the pinnacle of this, as it's when everything in the Ultimate Universe officially ended when it collided with the mainline universe, bringing them all together under one umbrella with all the characters that we knew from the original universe. This event functionally eliminated the Ultimate Fantastic Four once and for all, so the character designs that had happened there were now completely obsolete and we were back to the main regular Fantastic Four. I do think it's really interesting to note here that Alex Ross did all of the covers for the Secret Wars event in 2015. I really think this was the moment that a lot of things switched from a newer, modern, early 2000s look to really going back to the roots of the characters. And Alex Ross covers were in direct opposition to a lot of the design that had been happening for the last 15 years. And ever since Secret Wars, almost all of Marvel's main tentpole characters have had a series of covers done by Alex Ross. This includes Iron Man, Captain America, Iron Man and Captain America, Spider-Man, and most recently, at the time of me making this video, the Fantastic Four. Full Circle, as well as his ongoing covers for the Fantastic Four series, really show how reverently Alex Ross treats the Fantastic Four. He crafts them with so much reverence, a knowledge of their history, but also looks forward into the future to know that he's not the last person who's ever going to work with these characters. So something about his art always preserves what came before and also makes sure that the designs are consistent and can be reused by other creators in the future. If his work succeeds, and I think it will, we'll see the Fantastic Four join the greater pantheon of some of the greatest fictional heroes of all time.